Great trailer, isn't it? I don't get tired of watching it. I was thinking they should have an Academy Award for Best Festival Trailer, and this would definitely be a winner. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out on this Friday and day 9, believe it or not, of the Mill Valley Film Festival. But there's still a couple days left, so you still have plenty of choices out there, films to see, so pace yourself. My name's Clement, and I'm the documentary programmer of the festival. I watch hundreds of documentaries each year to put together this program to bring to you. And this one, when it showed up, I just knew this was perfect to balance out the program. Something that's fun, something that's thought-provoking, and something that's going to bring up a lot of questions. And we're so excited to be hosting the California premiere of this powerful film, and that recently had its world premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival. And just learned that it's also been picked up by Showtime in the near future. And I'd just like to bring up the 2 directors of this wonderful film, Moselle and Jon Kasbe, to say a few words before we start.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. I grew up in Mill Valley, so it's really wonderful to have a film here at the festival. Yeah.
Did you used to go to the festival?
Yes, when I was young, I used to go to the festival, and I always dreamed of my film playing here. So
here we are.
Yeah, and the timing was never right with the other films. And this is Jon Kasbe, my co-director of Sophia.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for having us. We're very excited. We'll be around afterwards to answer any questions. And we hope you enjoy it.
Q&A afterwards with us. Okay. We'll talk. Thank you.
So sit back and enjoy this powerful film, and we'll be back to talk about it afterwards. Welcome back. I'd like to bring up John and Crystal. I guess my first question is just, how did this journey begin? It had to start somewhere.
Yes, it started with the internet, as you could imagine. I saw a video of Sophia, and I think that she just wasn't what I expected a robot to be. I expect a robot to know everything and to be answering all your questions. In the video I saw, she was asking the human the questions. So I thought it was just like completely interesting. And I went to their website, I filled out a little form, and they got back to me the next day, which was a surprise because that never happens when you fill out those forms. And I talked to David, and I think the first thing he said was, I'm interested in consciousness, which was also very unexpected. And he said, I'm an artist. And I was super intrigued, and we kind of started a conversation. And then I was like on another project at that time, so I couldn't go to Hong Kong. And John is my favorite filmmaker, and him and I have worked together before in a couple of projects. And so I said, hey, do you want to go see if there's something there? And if so, we could do this together. And then
I went to Hong Kong and really quickly realized this was a family operation. David was building these with his mother, and it was not at all what I expected. And I think we both kind of felt this feeling of like, this is an artist really trapped inside of a corporate world who's trying to survive and trying to find connection through his art. And it's interesting, I was thinking about it actually on the flight here. Like, I think, and it's been cool just being in Mill Valley. I feel like we've met so many artists and musicians just being here already. I feel like there's a lot of people in this room that identify that way. I feel like so often with art, we're trying to put our experience into it and find ways to express what we're feeling. And I feel like what David did with Sophia is he was trying to find a way to not only put in what he was feeling, but find a way to connect with something else. And in a way that will connect with other people in the same way that like a piece of music or a painting might. So I think as just artists, we felt really inspired by seeing someone else really like kind of push the boundaries of what's possible and what they're doing.
And it felt very like hopeful, which, traditionally when you see a film about AI, it's, them taking over the world. And David comes from a perspective that's positive, and he feels like this is going to save the world. And we just thought that was so interesting because, nobody takes that perspective.
Well, Crystal, you've gained fame with Wolfpack, and you've made narrative feature and directed a successful TV series. And Jon, you've made one award-winning feature documentary, When Lambs Become Lions.
And a very amazing series that you guys have to all see. It's called The Deep End. It's incredible. It's on Hulu. It's amazing.
Uh-huh. So this is a kind of going back to your roots, getting back into like a feature documentary. Is this kind of where you want to go from now?
No, I don't. I mean, I personally don't choose what I want to do. That kind of just comes to me, usually. So it's really, I don't think this story told as a narrative film wouldn't be as interesting, because I think what makes it so interesting is that it's real, and that, you're looking in the face of this robot that, when I was a child, I would dream of this time when this would happen. So for me, I felt like this needed to be told as a documentary. The next film that I'm doing on my father, who is here, is going to be told as a narrative film because it's based in the 70s, and he's 70 years old almost. So anyways, what about you, Jon?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You don't know where
Jon's
you're
going to get into fiction. He has really good ideas.
Yeah.
So how long was this production altogether, would you say?
Too long. We started in 2018, I think, is when we first started talking about it. But, COVID hit. Krista was making Betty. At the same time, I was making The Deep End. So we're working on other things at the same time, which was actually nice because it gave it time to really organically marinate. We didn't feel a ton of pressure. And Showtime was actually amazing with being really flexible with us and letting the story kind of speak to us, rather than having a deadline that we had to kind of fit everything into. So it felt very natural.
Uh-huh. Well, you can tell a lot of time went into this. I could mainly tell by the length of his beard from shot to shot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we spent a lot of time with David, and we still speak to him, and we're sad he couldn't be here today, but I think he's in Saudi Arabia again.
Where is David?
I think they just went to Saudi Arabia, and they're always traveling, doing things.
Uh-huh.
So he wasn't able to join today, but yeah.
Where is he living at?
Where is he living? In Hong Kong.
Ah, he's in Hong Kong. And where's Sophia at the moment?
All over the world.
There's 49 Sophias now. So they're all over the place. And it's actually kind of neat because they can have 10 different events at different places, and you're just going to be at all of them at once. So depending on which one you're asking about kind of answers that question, but they're all over the place.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And David's actually trying to make this possible for humans right now as well, because he gets asked to speak at events all the time. So he's trying to find a way to have a hologram of himself so that he can give one presentation at 5 different locations all at once. Similar to what you kind of see at some airports, they have early versions of this, but he's trying to essentially do it so that you can project your image onto a robot. So as you move, the robot will move, and it kind of brings your presence into the room.
Well, what do you think was the biggest obstacles that you faced making this movie? What was your biggest challenges?
COVID? Yeah. It was hard because there was a certain point where we couldn't even go to Hong Kong for a year. So we had to find people to shoot there, and then we'd be over FaceTime trying to direct the scene, and it was difficult for sure. And then always an edit's always hard. It takes way longer than you want it to take, and This one likes to watch like so many cuts. That's not me, but I partook in the process.
Yeah, we did a lot of rough cut screenings. One thing I found difficult that surprised me during the process was when I first met Sophia, I was really excited about her. And then about 3 to 4 months in the shooting, I actually found myself having a really hard time connecting with her and the idea of her, because I'd seen her built so many times, I'd seen her mess up so many times. I felt like I kind of really understood what was going on behind the face. And had a hard time kind of like filming her in a way that felt empathetic, which I think is our approach to everything we shoot. We really try to understand the perspective of the person we're filming and what they're going through. And so there was like a year part of the shooting process where I was having a really hard time like connecting with Sophia and understanding like what's going on in her mind, if there was consciousness there, if there was life there. So I think for me that was probably one of the trickier parts. It's working through that.
How did you divide up the responsibilities here? I know one was travel, but as far as, and you're a cinematographer.
Yes.
And how did you work together to create this?
I mean, one thing that I noticed when we did this project where we went down to Haiti and we collaborated in that project, and it just worked really well. I don't know. For me, like everything's intuitive and you just kind of go as you will. But, there was definitely, I was shooting Betty and he would be in Hong Kong with Sophia. He's definitely on the ground more than I was as a DP and a director. But like once the edit came, like we just kind of, that was another thing is we had to do that remote, which was difficult. So it was just a lot of just dividing up, and I trust his aesthetic so much that, I think I really mostly agreed with him. I'm not sure about him about me, but I
definitely trust. There was a lot of mutual trust.
Yeah.
I think it helped that we had been friends for many years before we started working together. So there was like a common language and
I
understanding.
don't think we ever like gotten into any sort of altercation, really.
No, all of our fights were with other people. It was never with each other, which is rare for co-directors.
We're always like, I can't believe
they
they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, has David seen this?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you like his
He
portrayal?
loves it.
Yeah, he's really happy with it.
He loves it.
Yeah, his whole team's like helping to like put it out, and so yeah. it's a
And
good-
Sarah?
Sarah, she was with us in New York. She loves it. We wish she could be here too. She's awesome.
Did Sophia go with you to New York?
She did. Yeah.
Sophia's been doing Q&As with us, actually. So usually Sophia will be like right here, and we'll answer something, and she'll like kind of interrupt us and be like, "That's not how I remember it." And
She's literally the best person to have a party with ever. Like, I feel like people were like so entranced by her. We wish she could be here. Sorry.
I'd like to open it up if anybody else has any questions here. You're going to have to talk really loud. Oh, good. Thank you.
Don't talk as loud.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Recently, there was some news about, I thought it was somebody from Apple or something that has a intelligent thing, says that has achieved consciousness. Does that have anything to do with David? Is that somebody doing, research on their own? Is something totally different than David?
yeah,
Totally separate.
it's separate, and that
Oh,
was
Google.
Google. And I think what was really eerie about that is that person then got fired like soon
No,
after.
he didn't get fired, actually.
Oh, he
He
didn't?
just got suspended for a little bit, but still it was the whole thing is interesting.
Got suspended.
So you don't know if what he says is true or not, or?
I mean, I hit up David right after that happened, and he was like, well, yeah, I mean, we're just going to have to start realizing this stuff is happening. He's like, I've been telling people this for years. I don't know. I believe it's true.
Yeah, I just think it would be interesting if David started a relationship with that person and they shared information that maybe together they could come up with something to move this forward.
We will suggest that to him.
Hi, yes. The idea of an empathetic robot. We had the movie called Blade Runner where the main character was falling in love with a more or less a robot. So the question comes to mind, as this robot seems to make jokes and so forth, feels what we're feeling as human beings, do you ever think that there could be a time where people will actually take on one of these robots as a partner?
Sorry, what was the last part?
Well, you know, will there be marriages between humans and robots?
Well, I mean, a lot of the, a lot of the David's perspective is about like robot rights. So I think if they were to wake up and they were interested in that, I guess, yeah. If they're sentient and they're able to think for themselves and they want to be in a relationship with somebody, one of you, and you also wanted to be in the relationship, then that, I don't know.
I think this is already happening. No, I think I've read articles about humans that are in relationships with dolls and with robots and like claim that they're their life
Yeah,
partner.
but that's different because they like the robots and the dolls can't think for themselves and they can't actually accept the partnership in a real
Right,
way.
it's not
Like they can be
consensual.
programmed to, but like they're not thinking for themselves. So I don't know.
Ian McEwan wrote a very thoughtful book called Machines Like Us.
Yeah. I know that book.
You know,
Yes,
if-
true.
If you want to explore the idea, this person who asked the question wants to explore the idea about relationships and robots.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, I really, really enjoyed the film and I thought it was super powerful. And part of me was wondering how much of David and the company's struggle was important in the film telling, because if there was so much money and everything went super smooth, would we have felt as much of that emotion and that power behind you know what I mean? The struggle as an artist, the struggle with the money, the fact that there were so many bumps in the road, how much did that play a part in the telling of that film, if that makes sense?
I think a lot.
Yeah.
And I think what drew us to that element of the story is that one, I think for us it was a bit of a surprise. Like what we knew about Sophia before we went there is that like Will Smith took her on a date as like this celebrity stunt, and that she went on Jimmy Fallon, like these like very like glorious celebrity moments, and you'd think that like behind the scenes, like it's a well-functioning company that's doing well and getting lots of investment, and then once we kind of pulled back the curtain, we realized, oh no, they're really struggling. Like every month it feels like they're about to go out of business. And I think we related to that as storytellers who take a much more independent route in our lives.
Well, that's like, when I was like, hey, John, go to Hong Kong to see what's up. I mean, maybe we wouldn't have done the film if it was like running perfectly. And
I think we would have been less interested in it. I think it would have felt like less of a journey.
Because I think that, David, I feel like we all know somebody like David has like this great passion and they're going after it as hard as they can in their life. And, whether you identify with that yourself or somebody, it's something, like for us, this is like a human story about his struggle. And so that's, I think what the film ended up being.
Yeah, I think it made it a lot more powerful. If it was somebody up there that you're watching that just had billions of dollars and just, I just don't feel like we would have felt as empathetic with him and as you're trying to feel with her, the robot feeling empathetic as well. So I think that made it really
Yeah.
Good question.
Cool.
Well, just to close out, what's your next project?
I can't talk about it yet.
No?
Yeah.
You've got something in mind, though.
A few things, but not ready to speak out loud about them.
All right.
But Crystal should talk about hers.
My next project is a film about my dad who's in the audience. Dad, do you want to stand up? There he is. He's a musician, and in the 70s he worked at a hospital for people who had mental issues, and he he made music. He's like a music therapist. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy, well this is coming up in one of the next festivals.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming out, and thank you, Crystal and John.
Thank you.
And we have another screening tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Tell your friends. We're also doing a party at the Lumbered Yard at 6:30 today if you want to join us.
And spread the word.